No.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Words of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Dion Sanchez, and joining me today is Stephen with the most unique last name I have ever heard, which is why I'm not going to pronounce it because it's hard. Thank you for joining me today, Stephen.
My pleasure. My pleasure. My last name's Nawotniak, but you can just call me Steve. So it keeps it nice and simple.
Right. So, Steve, if you could tell my audience a bit about yourself, what you do, and just give us some further insight into who you are, that would be great.
Yeah. So I'm a licensed occupational therapist, and I work in a psychiatric hospital. And I live with a bipolar condition, and so I was diagnosed in August of 2002 after being hospitalized with severe depression, and then 10 years later, I was hospitalized with mania, and just this whole sense of having a condition and also being a professional. And what I like to do is I try to share my story to help destigmatize things a little bit, to demystify mental health a little bit, and to help show that just because you have a condition doesn't mean that you can't have a good quality of life, that and that you can be professional and you can enjoy life, and that there's a lot of good things that are available. I know that when I was hospitalized and I was coming out of it and early in my journey, I necessarily didn't see a lot of people that were um, doing the things that I wanted to do. And so I'm just trying to put myself out there to help.
Right. And I truly admire you for sharing that. As someone who deals with had to undergone a lot of health deficiencies growing up, just to give you a full spectrum idea as to the brunt of what I had to go through. For the first 2 years of my life, I couldn't hear or talk. So there was no specific medical diagnosis for what that was. It was just um, basically what my life ended up starting out. I couldn't hear or talk. So I had many health deficiencies and derailments, and I was diagnosed with ADHD and probably a myriad of other diagnoses. I think bipolar disorder may have been one of them. I'm not entirely sure, but the whole purpose of me relating to you in regards to being diagnosed with um, health conditions of that magnitude is the fact that I understand it being, I wouldn't say demoralizing, maybe that's not the right word, but it certainly doesn't make trying to grow and evolve as a person any easier, or at least for myself personally, because I found it really hard for me to get any socialization. For some reason, kids wouldn't interact with me, which made growing up, I mean, I had a good childhood, but the fact that I had no friends and kids would play in their blocks by themselves or together, and I would be by myself in a corner. And then fast forward to me being in middle school, I would be sitting by myself on a couch while other kids were playing together. So I knew that I was different. I mean, that was just, I was biologically different and I didn't ask to be different, but it was just how my life turned out. And it was hard to appreciate my differences because it
Yeah.
seemed like nobody accepted me for my differences.
Yep.
So, as far as, I mean, my health conditions and what I had to go through, they're part of me. I can't change that. I can't hide it. But it made my life more challenging because I had to overcome so much because I had so many hindrances from the start of my birth.
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah. And what I have found that there's two type of stigma with mental health. There's the community stigma, which is where people hear you have your bipolar and automatically assume a certain thing, or they hear you have a mental health condition and so they treat you differently. There's that kind of community stigma that exists. But I think one of the things that's even more impactful than community stigma is self stigma. And
right.
that's where I start thinking less of myself because I have a label. And what I have found that's important is understanding how those symptoms show up in my life. Not so much that the label that they're given, but really just understanding what's it like in my own skin. How do the symptoms show up? How do they affect me? And what is it that I can do to address those and manage those so I can have the quality of life that I want? And that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. Um, One of the things that I found is that acceptance is a really important thing, because I can turn around and be upset about having the condition. I can feel like it's not fair. I can go through all those kinds of things, wonder why me. I've been through all of that. But I found that the ability to accept a situation is really important. And accepting things you like is easy, but accepting things you don't like is difficult.
Right.
And what I have found is that acceptance is not a one and done thing. It's like sometimes I accept it, sometimes I fight it, sometimes I feel good about it, sometimes I feel bad about it. And I actually created a tool that I use called the acceptance ladder. If you want to, can I share that and
Yes.
kind
Yes.
of what I
Please
use?
do. Yes.
So it has 5 levels. Bottom level is curse. And that's where I feel like I'm a complete victim of the universe. The universe is stacked against me. There's nothing I can do. It's unfair, and I'm hopeless. So that's curse mode. And I will definitely say, when I was hospitalized with depression, I was in curse mode because I didn't know what was going on. No matter what I did, I couldn't get out of the depression. I didn't know what was going on, and so I felt like I had this curse. The next rung up is it's difficult, and that's so curse is the bottom level.
Okay.
It's difficult is the next level up, and that's where it's I should not have it. It's work. It's unfair. It's not hopeless, but it's still, it's something that should not be there, right? There's that judgment associated with it. Then the next rung up is it is what it is, and that's where I let go of the judgment of it. It can still be uncomfortable, but it's just the experience that I'm having. It's not about being right or wrong, good or bad, fair or unfair. It's just my experience. So there's curse, difficult, is what it is. The next rung up is teacher. What is the experience teaching me, or what is it that I need to learn to address the needs of the situation? And then finally is gift. And that's where, what am I able to do now that I never would have been able to do beforehand without it? Now, the key is all I can ever do is recognize what rung am I on, and am I willing to go one rung up? That's it. So when I'm in difficult mode, don't talk to me about it being a gift, because I can't see it that way.
Right.
It's something that should not happen. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't want it. It's work, right? So at that level, all I can do is try to let go of the judgment of it and let it just be. It very well may be uncomfortable, but instead of fighting it, I'm just kind of sitting with it. And so I find that the whole thing is recognizing what rung am I on, and am I willing to go one rung up? And then all I end up doing is I get to the point where I'm able to recognize what rung I'm on sooner, and then I give myself permission to go one rung up sooner, so I end up being able to climb the ladder a little bit faster as I practice the tools. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I'm glad you used that analogy as far as the ladder and a curse. With my health developments growing up, I knew it wasn't a curse, obviously, but it definitely was on the difficult level.
Yeah.
It certainly was, and it brought some much unfortunate insecurities in me, from childhood to preteen. It took me being in 8th grade to stop questioning my existence, because I felt like, because and at this point I had no friends, nobody would interact with me. It was still challenging. So
Yeah.
I just thought, okay, I'm gonna be alone forever. So why am I here if nobody wants to be my friend? But I am a Christian, so my faith is really important to me. So God kept bugging in my head, like, no, stick it out. I'll reveal the truth to you soon, which he did. And hey, I'm here and we're having this conversation. So
Yeah.
obviously I learned to accept my differences for what they are, as you mentioned in your ladder. It just took me a little longer. I didn't see it as a curse, but I was definitely at the difficult stage, and it just took me a little while to accept all that I am,
Yeah.
that there's nothing wrong with me.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm at the point now where I see myself as being, I have an atypical nervous system. So there are times that when I was hospitalized with depression and mania, I was sick and I needed a lot of help. Um, but now, with my medication and with the tools that I've learned, I'm learning how to live with it. And so, how do you have a good quality of life with it? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I guess I just put that out there because I know that sometimes when you're dealing with depression or anxiety or bipolar, or you're dealing with some of these internal storms, it can be hard. It can be easy to lose hope. And what I'm just wanting to share is that while it can be an uncomfortable experience, it doesn't have to be suffering. Um, it can be uncomfortable, but one of the things that I have found to be really valuable is when I'm able to find purpose inside of the pain. Like there's one thing just to cope with it,
yeah,
right? And just deal with it. And that's nah. Like I can just get through it but there's nothing really there. But what I find, like right now I do advocacy work and I give presentations to school groups and professional organizations about mental health and about bipolar and what the lived experience is like. And I'm finding that gives purpose to the pain. So now it's not as oppressive. And I would just put out there that when you're feeling uncomfortable, the acceptance ladder I find is a really good tool. And then if you can, that helps you move it into teacher. And then as you work with it and find a use for that discomfort, that empowers you even more.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more as far as using your experiences for a greater purpose. And that's really enabled me to start this podcast in a way. I obviously shared a bit of myself in a nutshell pretty much, but I also got diagnosed with diabetes at the start of the pandemic as well. We're about 2 years into this pandemic, unfortunately, which means I'm 2 years diabetic. When in the grand spectrum of things. And I actually before I got diagnosed, I was nowhere near the difficult level. I was at the bottom of the bottom level because I had no idea what was happening to me. I was sick, I was suffering.
Yep.
I truly could have died at any given moment. Like that's a hard cold fact. I was a skeleton, an actual skeleton, basically. If skeletons walked among the earth, I was that skeleton. Like it was terrible. But I did get my diagnosis and I took that pain, my suffering, I just shot it up to the ladder and saw it as a gift because, hey, I'm still here, I'm breathing, I'm alive. Many of my family had trouble accepting my diagnosis as a gift because of what I just shared with you. And to have to undergone this in my 20s when it seemed like my life was relatively at ease, not complete ease, but 50% ease, and then have to go through this diagnosis. And when there's like a deadly virus going around as well, that doesn't make it any easier either.
No, it doesn't.
So if it wasn't for that particular experience and God using that diagnosis as a blessing and a gift, and calling me to be a warrior for change and to use my voice, then it wouldn't have led to me launching this podcast. So, and helping others with their mental health stories and sharing their struggles, and just to remind them of the fact that they are never alone.
Yeah, that is awesome. And it's a powerful thing how through faith, even the worst experiences can be used for good. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it was bad. It was absolutely horrible. And I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm chuckling about it. I probably wouldn't have been chuckling about it 2 years ago, but it was bad. And I'm glad God basically resurrected me from the dead. And yes, I'm quoting scripture, but that's the best analogy to literally what I went through. And
Gotcha.
I'm just glad that I'm still here, and he's using my power of my voice to help others share their voices. So,
And that is awesome. And it makes me remember what my pastor said in church this Sunday, is that you don't need to have enough faith to do the whole journey at once. You just need to have enough faith to get to the next step. And that way, it's just, what's the next process, and then he'll help you take the next step, and it's just one step at a time. And I think, and that I found to be very, very helpful, because sometimes when you look at the whole big picture, it can be a little, for me, sometimes I find it's a little daunting and overwhelming. But if I just remember that, no, it's today or this week or these 15 minutes, you break it down, and then it helps. I don't need to know it all. I just need to know that this is what I'm using, and I'm using my stuff to help stuff today. And I find that's helpful.
absolutely. Well, Steve, I would like to get to our icebreaker part of the game, which is going to be really fun.
Absolutely.
So, I'll start with the icebreaker question because that's simpler. If you had to come up with a title or chapter for where your life is at right now, what would it be?
A chapter or a title for where my life is right now.
Mhm.
I would have to say Advocacy in the Storm.
Ooh, advocacy in the storm.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
mind sharing why you would pick that? I mean, I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, advocacy in the storm is really deep. So,
Well, I'm an advocate.
right,
I'm a mental
right.
health advocate, and it's all about sharing about how you can use things and not be caught up with stuff. Sorry about the glare from my glasses. I keep trying to move so that it's not there,
It's
but
okay.
I'm but anyway, um, but the reason why I say Advocacy in the Storm is because, like, my symptoms have been softened, but they haven't gone away.
Okay.
I still have some depressive times. I still have some anxious times. I still have some of my hypomanic times. So I can still have an internal storm going on. But it's a matter of, like I mentioned earlier, about having purpose to the pain and being able to use the discomfort to help people and to draw on that. And so it's advocacy through the storm.
Awesome. So I sort of already shared what my title would be in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Basically, my title or chapter would be a warrior for change. I undergone a lot in my life, and you pretty much got the whole diagram or background in 50 seconds or less, pretty much. So I feel like being a warrior for change is really symbiotic and represents who I am and where I am in my life right now.
Absolutely. That's a good one. I
Thank
like
you.
that. I might scoot on those coattails a little bit, because I can see myself with that too a little bit.
Absolutely. And I've mentioned this numerous times. Everyone is a warrior in spite of their circumstances. Like they truly, truly are. So
That's awesome.
Thank you. So on to my favorite part,
All
my
right.
icebreaker game. So this game is called Song Association. You don't have to be an avid singer to understand this game. It's just for giggles and hoots and just to break the ice. So basically how it works is I give you a word and you have 15 seconds. I usually say this part for the end, but you have 15 seconds based off the word I give you to either say the song in a title or in the lyrics. It has to be an actual song. You cannot make it up. Maybe I'll have another,
Ooh.
maybe I'll make up an icebreaker game where you can make up songs, but not today. So based off of the word I give you, you have 15 seconds to say it in the song title or in the lyrics.
All right. I may have to call a help from the audience, but let's give this a go.
And you can't Google search it either. I need to mention that too.
Oh man, I'm losing my options.
Yes. I mean, you can Google search it after the game, but you can't do it during. So, all right. So,
Got it.
first word is heart.
Heart.
Mhm.
Heart. Oh. My achy breaky heart.
Okay. You got it before the timer went off. And I know that's a song by Billy Ray Cyrus. So,
Yes.
so
That's all I could come up with.
see, you're doing good. So the next one, maybe I should change it to have some fun, but I won't change it. The next one is words.
Words.
Mhm.
Oh. I have no idea. I am blanking out on this one. Oh.
Well, I can tell you an answer some guests have given.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
some of them answered this one with the song More Than Words by the band Extreme.
Oh, yes.
I'm not familiar with the band Extreme, but I am familiar with the song because many people have covered it. So you could
Yeah,
run
yeah,
with
yeah.
that one, but the timer went off.
Okay.
So the next one, I changed this word, the third word recently, because it seemed like the third word always stumps people. So hopefully it doesn't stump you, because I know for a fact there is a song pertaining to this word. So
Okay.
the last word for you is faith.
Faith.
Mhm.
Faith Hill is a singer.
That doesn't count. You have to
Oh,
sing a song.
oh, oh. Um, oh, ye of little faith. That's scripture.
I know that's scripture. And I know in my heart and God will accept it, but it doesn't count in this case. Oh, you were so close. And I think you're the first person to actually say a singer for their answer. Faith Hill. Oh, that was fun.
That was cool. I
You
was waiting for the word rain.
rain?
Purple rain.
Oh, maybe I should add rain for the next one. But that was fun. And I like that you added a Billy Ray Cyrus song. I wasn't expecting that for an answer. No one has given that song as an answer. So that's a first. We can keep thinking of multiple songs all day long, or artists with the words in their name. But unfortunately, we're at the end of this fun conversation. Steve, do you have any social media links for my audience before we wrap up here?
Well, I've written some books and I've created a YouTube channel, and all those links and everything you can get on my website, which is compassrecoverycoaching.com.
Awesome. Just out of curiosity, what made you title your book Compass to Recovery?
Well, the website is called compassrecoverycoaching.com. That's the title of my business, Compass Recovery Coaching.
Okay.
And that's because I think that we're on a journey when we're dealing with mental health, and that we're never done, but it's a process. And Compass is a guide in the process, and it's a coach, because I'm not there to tell you what to do, but I'm there to help with developing skills so that you can do well in your game of life. And so that's kind of where the name of that came from. But I've written a couple books. I've done an online video course, and I have a YouTube channel. And so I figured just going to one place, compassrecoverycoaching.com, that'll give you links to all the books and everything that I've done. And I think that'll be the simplest way to find out about it.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining me, Steve. This was a wonderful conversation.
This has been great. Thank you so much for asking me.
Of course. So, to all my listeners, we're at the end of this episode. If you enjoy this episode, if you want to listen to it, watch it, here are the ways to do that. You can find us on Facebook at the Words of Heart podcast. We are also on YouTube under the same name. And of course, we're on wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google. If you want to subscribe, send a review, send it to the moon. If you can send it to the moon, let me know, because intergalactic broadcasting would be epic and awesome. But however you choose to do so, please let me know your thoughts and or feedback. If you would like to get in contact with me pertaining to this episode or any episode, or just to say hi or to make fun of me for my song word choices, you can do so on my social media accounts. I'm on Instagram at HeartWarrior25, and I'm on Twitter at HeartWarrior24. So once again, thank you for joining me, Steve. And to all my listeners, stay healthy, stay safe. Feel free to brush up on some music knowledge if you would like to partake in this game in a future episode. Either way, stay happy, stay safe, and until next time, bye.
Bye now.